Hello everyone, welcome to the Explore podcast. I'm Tanishka Gupta, and today we are diving deep into AI, not the hype version, but the one that actually works in production. Today's guest is Bhaskar Roy. He leads AI-driven initiatives across leading businesses. Over the past decade, he has built and scaled analytics and AI practices at Fractal, led ESG data and analytics portfolios across India and the Asia Pacific region, and worked closely with global clients in the retail, CPG, automotive, and utility sectors. However, what sets him apart is that he is not just a consultant. He holds patents in predictive analytics and optimization. He mentors startups across the IIT ecosystem. He writes thoughtful pieces about everything from why AI won't end creativity to how to actually close the strategy execution gap in AI. Sir, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So to begin with questions, firstly I would like to ask you, sir, how did your view of AI evolve over time? And when did you realize that the real impact isn't just in building better models, but in how organizations actually use them?
Sure, that's a great question. In fact, that's something that has evolved over time. When I started my career, my first role was squarely focused on risk analytics, essentially leveraging data to figure out how risk frameworks could be leveraged to drive the business forward. From there, I then switched and did a lot of work in marketing analytics. Now, that early exposure to risk and marketing, two very different domains, one where guardrails are very, very important, the other where you can actually let your imagination take hold and figure out the right ways in which data can be used to drive the business forward. Now, that contrast, I think, is what made me realize that the outcomes that are possible are infinite. What determines success in those areas is how we leverage data. How do we look at the business problem that we are trying to solve for, and then combine the two to have the impact that we are looking for.
Okay, sir. So you saw the whole picture, like starting from analytics to coming into AI. So
Yes.
you are aware of the whole picture that goes into the background as well as in the foreground.
Yeah.
So, for the second question, I would like to ask that you hold patents in predictive analytics and optimization. So, can you please explain us what were those patents actually solving, and how did that technology work shape the way you approach AI strategy today?
Sure. So the two patents that I've had the opportunity of working for along with my teams, right? They work in different areas of retail. Now, retail, as you think of it, most of us go to shop in stores, we shop online. We only see what is in the front of the house. Now, the front of the house is very important because we all seek certain kind of assistance when we go in the store. But besides the people that you see on the floor there is a lot that goes in the background of not just ensuring that you have the right things available in the store, but they are getting continuously restocked. They are moving things around the right way and making things available for you. All of this workforce that goes behind making a retail store work or a retail organization work, you need to continuously optimize that depending on changes in not just organization objectives, but also how risk sits in different places. So one of the patented work that I did along with my team was of how do you arrive at a framework that lets you optimize some of these movements of people, not just across the stores, but also within stores in the different functions, depending on what time of the day it is, what day of the week it is, and things around that. So that's one key part of the work that me and my teams did. The second was slightly more focused around risk. And a large bane for retail, let's say in the US, Europe, and other large geographies, is the fact that there is a lot of merchandise that is lost to deliberate theft that takes place in stores. Now, there are ways in which you can start tracking some of these activities, whether you see people kind of doing things together on a video, or you catch them stealing something together. And as you kind of build that record, what you start realizing, and this is especially true for large countries like the US, where stores of a certain size typically are outside large cities
Right.
and around major highways. So when you start tracking some of these things, you realize that people tend to move along a certain highway and they will only hit stores that are on that highway and within a certain distance. Now, as somebody who's trying to catch these people, when you look at it on a map, it's very easy to understand where that movement is, where the actual highway lies, and the store's location thereby. The trick that happened there was, how do you now start converting something that is visually very apparent to anybody looking at it into something that your data and your algorithm can start understanding,
Okay, sir.
and then start predicting when and where something might happen.
Okay, sir.
So that's the two key parts of the good work that me along with my team was able to do and drive some impact there.
Great, sir. So, in my understanding, in your first patent, you were seeing into the processes like of the retail store, like not just all is on the counter, but what goes behind. And in the second patent, you were looking into the risk factors of it, as you said, like since the locations are in suburbs, and so how do you translate that into the model or
Yeah.
the algorithm?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, sir. So to continue with my question, so my next question to you, sir, is like in one of your articles you mentioned that most companies aren't struggling with AI strategy. They have strategy. They have consultants. What's actually breaking is it the data, the talent, the organization, or something else is entirely breaking. Like, so what is going wrong with these companies? Like, when they have strategy and consultants in the place.
I think the key part that a lot of organizations tend to miss is while the strategy is good to have, till you start executing in full earnest against that strategy, you will not see success. And you will also see success only once you start measuring how you're doing certain things.
Okay, sir.
As the old saying goes, what you don't measure or can't measure, you will not be able to
Yes, sir.
improve. So therefore, that's the key focus there. How do you go beyond just the PPTs that a consultant or anybody in strategy will give you? Break that down into specific actions that people on the ground can start taking.
Great, sir.
Because it is the people on the ground who will execute. Once you start executing, you will realize where things are working, where they are not. And then accordingly, you need to recalibrate.
Yes, sir.
So this whole ability to actually get down to executing, experimenting the right way so that you start seeing signals and adjusting according to those signals to then drive towards impact. That is where I think a lot of organizations tend to struggle.
Okay, sir. Sir, also in our course, like we learned that there are measurements, but measurements have to be right, because since if we have wrong measurements, then it could lead to negative results as well. So
Yeah.
I think this is on the similar point that
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to measure the right things and then see the impact.
see the
Yeah.
impact. So for the next question, I would like to ask you about, like, we usually have the bad data, and it get usually blamed for the mishaps or the flaws we face for everything other than that. But when I hear about bad data, I don't actually know what that means. Is it missing values, wrong labels, stale information, or is it just biased? So can you please explain from your experience, explain it to me, like what bad data actually looks like, and how do you work backwards from that problem?
Sure. So there are so all of the elements that you speak about, right? I think all of those constitute what bad data is. But practically, if you look at it, what we are talking about essentially is you're looking at a decision that you're trying to drive. You're working backwards from that decision and trying to then understand whether you have the right data, so to say, available to drive that decision forward or not.
Okay, sir.
Now, what does the right data mean in this case? The right data means does it have the right elements that you need to arrive at that decision? For example, if you're looking at, let's say, making a credit decision on a credit card application or a loan application that has come into you, but you've not maybe captured something as basic as the demographics of the individual correctly, or other quantitative information that is available to you has not been captured, you will not be able to get to a decision. So it's critical required information but not available, and that changes by industry. So that's the first criteria. Do you have what you need?
So,
If you have what you need, is it complete and sufficient or not? That's the second criteria that you also were referring to earlier.
Yes, sir.
The third part beyond that comes in is now I have the right data, I have everything that I need. Have I accounted for anything like bias? Again, something that you referenced earlier. Now that becomes very, very important because the model will predict basis what it sees in the data there. And a classic example is a lot of organizations have tried, for example, AI driven hiring decisions.
Right.
Now, the base data that they use to train their models, unfortunately, tends to be biased.
Right, sir.
And biased in a way where survivorship actually plays a huge role in
Yes,
that.
sir.
And survivorship, unfortunately, historically has been driven by educational backgrounds, cities that you grew up in, and all of that bias comes into that data and therefore the predictions that it is making,
Yes, sir.
making the data essentially unusable, so to say. Now, that's one big part of it. Do I have what I need? What I have, is that correct or not? And is there any sort of bias that comes in?
Right, sir.
The next element that typically is important is availability at the right time.
Right, sir.
For example, if you're looking to make predictive decisions on, let's say, machinery, but your data is not coming back to you at the right frequency, you will never be able to get to a model that actually works and does what it is required to do.
Okay, sir.
So all of those elements essentially combine to form what we can call as bad data.
Yes, sir. So, sir, like to follow up, since all of these steps require data in the background, so like should companies invest heavily in the data engineering aspect of things as well, since data is being accumulated and not fabricated but furnished from their end. So, what do you suggest, sir? Like before building AI for
There is a lot of elements there, right? One is data collection itself.
right.
Depending on the use case that you're trying to solve for, or depending on the problem that you're trying to solve for, are you even collecting that data today? Unfortunately, a lot of organizations don't collect all the data that they have access to. Or even if they're collecting, they might not be storing it up to a certain frequency or duration that is required to build robust models.
Okay, sir.
So the first step is that, am I collecting the right data? Once that is solved for, that is when you need to bring in the right data engineering capabilities to ensure that the data is being stored the right way and the right pipelines are there to actually enable usage of that data eventually. And then, of course, the models that kind of come in after that to use this data and drive decisions forward.
Okay, sir. Sir, for the next question, I would like to ask, like, since you have worked in technologies like IoT and AI, so I had just doubt, what was your biggest lesson, like, for implementing IoT as well as in the AI domains, because the data is a real time and could be quite messy. So, what was your biggest lesson there?
I think the biggest part is understanding your data is important. And I'll give you an example. One of the clients that I worked with in one of my previous organizations, it's a large manufacturer of small luxury planes
Okay.
and metro coaches, besides other equipment that they manufacture. They had been embedding sensors into everything that they manufactured since the year 2000.
Okay, sir.
And this I'm talking of about 2017, 2018 is when I was interacting with them. For those 17 to 18 years, all that data had been collected. Nobody was using that data for anything, and leave alone using it. Nobody even knew what that data was.
Okay.
So the first step literally was, how do we start understanding that data better, creating a sort of a data repository so that everybody knows what is stored there.
Okay, sir.
And then you start building solutions on top of it. I think that is the biggest revelation. Most of us don't know what is there,
Okay, sir.
and therefore don't know how to leverage that the right way to drive our decisions forward.
Okay, sir. Got it. So, sir, for the next question, it is more on ethics and privacy side. So, sir, like when you're building AI, how do you think about ethical side? And how are regulations like General Data Protection Regulation and Digital Service Act actually changing how you approach AI? Sir, do you build systems differently for different geographical locations based on the regulations, and how do you proceed with it?
Sure. So I'll So going back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Any sort of system essentially has 4 parts that you're trying to enable. There is the data layer, there is the data pipeline, the model, and then the usage of the model itself. Regulations typically apply at 3 of those 4 levels.
Okay.
One is what kind of data you're collecting, whether you have the right consent or not. That then determines what data is getting piped. At a model level also, there are some policy constraints that typically are put in on what you can or cannot use, even though you might have collected that data.
Okay, sir.
For example, for credit decisions, typically you cannot use people's ethnicity and things around that for making those decisions. So that's a model level constraint that is put. And then there is the last one, which is how people actually end up using it.
Yes, sir.
A lot of the policy typically ends up at that level today.
Okay, sir.
Now, when you're building models themselves, you are guided to a certain extent by those constraints. But will you make fundamentally different models because those constraints exist? Probably not.
Okay, sir.
You would apply those constraints at the right place in that whole spectrum that I was talking about.
Yes, sir.
And that then determines how you end up using it.
Got it, sir.
Yeah.
So, sir, it's not about the whole journey, but at the right place where you can use those constraints to be compliant and
Absolutely.
to the regulations.
Yes.
Okay, sir. So, sir, my next question to you would be, like, since you have been working in AI and you have scaled teams in different geographies, launched new practices, and now you're building AI capabilities. So, what does an effective AI organization look like to you?
That's a very good question. Now, it depends on who you talk to. Everybody will have a different answer to it. I have spent a lot of my career doing data science and AI work. So naturally, data scientists kind of come naturally to mind of what you should have as part of a team. But essentially, if you're building out a team, you should have 3 or 4 key skill sets in that team. Most importantly, you should have somebody who understands the domain.
Okay, sir.
If you're building a solution for, let's say, a steel making company, somebody who understands the processes there.
Yes,
if you're working with a financial services company, he or she should understand that business very well. So the domain is very crucial. Second, typically, is a skill set around your ability to extract, manipulate, and build off data sets that is there. Yes. Now, this skill set could reside with a data scientist. It could be an ML engineer who is maybe better equipped to do that, or something similar. So that's the second skill set that you need, the ability to extract and work with data.
Okay, sir.
And then third is typically more on the data engineering side of things. Because you can build a lot of things, but if you don't make them scalable through the right frameworks and right processes in place, you will not be able to have the impact that is required.
Okay,
so that's the 3 key skill sets, I would say. Somebody who understands the domain, somebody who can work with the data, and somebody who can get the data in the right places to have the impact that you're looking for.
Okay, sir. So your ideal team will have like at least 3 people. One who is SME of the industry, another will be who can work with the data, and another will be like who can process with the data. Like one will be a data engineer and another will be ML engineer, for example.
Exactly.
Another will be SME of the industry. Okay, sure. So thank you. So for the next question, it is more on the democratization and fair access of AI. So sir, I saw you have written about AI democratization as well. So, and you also talk about strategy execution gap. Are these related? Like, do big companies with resources win at AI by default, or is there still a room for small players? What would actually level playing field look like?
Okay, that's an interesting question, right? If you look at developments in the field of AI,
yes, sir.
There are typically about 3, maybe 4 distinct phases. AI has been there for a long time now,
Yes,
which
indeed.
many of us don't realize. A lot of the theoretical work underpinning what happens today actually happened back in the 1940s
Yes,
and 50s. The reason that could not move forward was because you did not have the right computing power
Yes, sir.
available to actually get the right kind of outcome. So that was the first stage, more theoretical. Second stage after that was where developments happened both on the compute side as well as how algorithms could actually be leveraged to drive some of that forward. Now, this second stage, I would break into three parts. First part was driven predominantly by academic institutions.
Yes, sir.
There was a lot of research grants that governments were giving. There was a lot of focused research through PhDs and other related activity that was happening in educational institutions. So largely academic driven.
Yes, sir.
This started changing right about 2010, 2012, that time frame, where we had the big bidding war for Jeffrey Hinton between Google and other companies.
Right.
That is when a lot of research started moving from academic circles to actually big tech.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
And that has now changed. The third part of it now is coming in, where in the last about 2 years, there is significant democratization that has happened by lowering the cost of what you're trying to do by players like DeepSeek and others that are there as well.
Yes, sir.
Right? Now, what that has done is that has lowered the cost of trying out something new.
Right.
For example, when generative AI came in, the cost of doing an experiment was exorbitant.
Yes, sir.
It has now come down by a magnitude of almost 100 to 200x.
Great.
Now, what that enables is you can experiment much quicker at a much lower cost.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, it of course helps if you have more money, but even if you don't, you can be more intelligent and more purposeful about how you're using and leveraging some of these technologies to actually then get to the outcomes that you're looking for.
Okay, sir.
And that is why you see a proliferation of startups that are leveraging some of these new technologies
Yes, sir.
to drive impact.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely, sir. I agree with you. So, sir, for the next question, like I have it, like a lot of enterprises are built around AI centers for excellence, and they often build cool stuff in the solution, but nothing much happens into business. How do you actually get AI from central team into hands of business and units that need it? What's the operating model that actually works in this case?
See, you can keep creating a lot of things centrally, be it new tools that you're trying out, be it new capabilities that you're trying to build out. But those capabilities need to be linked with real life, actual use cases on the ground. Till that link is not established, you will never have usage of those technologies on the ground. So, therefore, it's very important to think problem statement backwards.
Okay.
Keep the customer at the center, understand what kind of problems they are facing, use those problems to then understand what kind of capabilities already exist, what new capabilities you need to form,
Okay, sir.
and then use that reverse mechanism to then drive those use cases and capabilities forward.
Okay, sir.
But you have to do that in a systematic manner, right? You will typically want to have a situation in which you create a central framework to identify how these new capabilities could be leveraged for certain use cases. Once you've done that, you've created the capability, how do you then disseminate that in again a structured manner to some of these business units that are on the ground, and then understand from the feedback that you're getting in whether you need to change something or not.
Okay,
So it has to be a combination of something that you build centrally so that you can scale more easily,
Yes, sir.
but then get it down to the business unit so that they can start experimenting with it and playing around to then give signals back to you on how and where things are working, where things are not working, and how you need to then iterate through that.
Okay, sir. So, sir, and we are parallelly working from top down and also bottom up approach, and we are seeing like how the whole picture is again covered. Like we are not just looking into top down, like things will follow this way, or bottom up, like they want this thing, but actually a balance between both.
Absolutely.
Okay, sir. So, like for my next question is about healthcare and sustainability. So, sir, in the domains like healthcare and sustainability via AI, bad AI doesn't just waste money, but it does hurt people and or the planet. So, what does responsible AI look to you in practice?
Yeah. Sure. So, see, healthcare, sustainability, and some of the other fields, the impact of AI going wrong is very apparent to everybody.
So,
It is immediately visible, and the outcomes can be catastrophic
Right.
at times as well. Therefore, you need to embed a lot of the right ways of doing things through ethics, through other ways of making it more responsible into the process itself. For example, and we were talking about bias a little while ago, let's pick out very specific things. Let's say that there is a startup that is working in the field of leveraging AI for diagnostic purposes.
Okay,
it
sir.
could be looking at either your pathology reports that are coming out. It could be looking at your X-rays and MRIs and things around that. Now, all of these reports have very specific markers that are put in there.
Yes, sir.
It has your name, it has your age, it potentially also has your address. Now, if you're using this data to train any of your AI, you have to make sure that you're redacting a lot of that information so that there is no bias that starts coming into the model that you're building as well. The second part that you have to be careful about is the input that you're giving it. Are there certain is there some information that's been added on by, let's say, a doctor on top of it?
Okay,
For example, when you're looking at reports, a doctor might tick something or cross something out. If you're not being careful in canceling those inputs out from your base data, sometimes the model can learn things that it should not, and work very well for your training data. But the moment you bring it out in the real life, it starts failing. So these impacts you need to be very, very cautious about. And these also are therefore fields in which a human in the loop is very crucial.
Yes, sir.
To ensure that you minimize the chance of something catastrophic happening.
Yes, sir. So, to continue on your point, like you said, one has to have a doctor in the loop as well to check if the things are going properly or not. So, sir, one of the examples I can think of is a recent Japanese study. They were looking into something else, they were searching for something else, but eventually they found out about the cancer cells they were detecting. So it was not their goal, but somehow they ended up on that. So I don't know how relevant is that for their study, but again, they might have missed out on some point, and their data or their analysis might have gone into certain another direction, and now they are having altogether different results.
Absolutely. So most discovery happens like that.
Yeah.
You're looking for something else and something else accidentally comes out of it and
Yes, sir.
turns out to be more useful than what you were probably trying to look for.
Yes, sir. So, sir, my next question to you would be around AGI and its hype. So, sir, these days everyone is talking about AGI, multimodal models, reasoning models, autonomous AI agents. So, sir, I would like to know the real stuff from hype, and where do you think AI is actually heading in next 3 to 5 years? And what should enterprise be preparing for right now?
Sure. So in the next 3 to 5 years, again, the rapid pace at which AI is developing today, I'm not even sure if we should be prophesizing about what will happen 5 years from now.
Okay, sir.
We should take it as it comes. But essentially, we are moving towards a world where decision making is going to get more driven through data.
Okay, sir.
Whether it is developments within AI or more prevalence of very standard ways in which we can do things using even your basics like, let's say, regression.
Yes, sir.
Right. So the prevalence of those things will continue to improve. Research, of course, is going in a direction where we are actually moving towards either AGI or other forms of intelligence. But essentially, if you think of it, we are moving from a phase where we are today predicting things to then trying to understand causality behind what is happening.
Okay, sir.
We will get there sooner than later, but it is something that has to happen step by step and in a progressive manner.
Okay, sir. So now moving forward to rapid fire round.
Okay.
So my first question is, biggest AI misconception. What do people get totally wrong about AI?
That it's a magic wand which can solve anything and everything.
Okay, sir. So next question is, most underrated AI technique. Something that deserves way more hype than it gets.
Regression. 99% of things today you can solve very well through regression. Unfortunately, people don't look at it.
Okay, sir. So then my next question is, AI tool you actually use daily, not theoretical. What's in your workflow right now?
It's a combination for me of tools like Claude and ChatGPT. Depending on different purposes, I end up using them very differently.
Okay, sir. So what's the scariest AI scenario to you? And not existential risk, what actually worries you in the next 5 years?
I really spread misinformation. I think that is going to be the key part that we need to think about.
So for the next question, so most exciting AI use case you have seen, whether it be in a real project or with real impact.
Yeah. Got it. So, see, there are a number of use cases within retail where even the basics of AI actually can start having significant impact, whether it be about getting you more visibility on what is happening in your supply chain today, to where certain errors might be cropping up and doing that in a very proactive manner. So that I think is a very crucial thing where AI has impact on the ground and is delivering value to every business.
Okay, sir. So next question is like book, article, or creator you would like to recommend, and what are you actually reading or following these days?
Sure. So I'm reading two kinds of things today. One is a book called The Age of Intelligence by
Sir.
Max Bennett, if I remember correctly, is the author.
Okay, sir.
So that's one that is an interesting read. Not very long, so I would recommend people to kind of pick it up. The second, I love reading mystery novels.
Okay, sir.
Richard Osman is the one that I'm reading these days. I've read his first 3 or 4 around the Thursday Murder Club, and I'm
sir.
looking forward to the next one that got released, I think, last month.
Great, sir. So, sir, this has been incredible. For everyone listening, if you want to follow Bhaskar sir's work, he is very active on LinkedIn, he writes on Medium, and he is speaking at conferences across the world. Do check out his pieces on strategy execution gaps, AI democratization, and the future of work. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You have been listening to the Explore podcast. I'm Tanishka Gupta. Thank you for joining us.